Hey, good evening. Thanks for tuning in to our Wednesday night devotional thought. And something that's been on my mind recently is thinking about everything that's going on, especially as hopefully we're getting to a point to where we're going to start coming back real soon. And I'll tell you what I was thinking about. I was thinking about Garth Brooks. Okay, and that may seem sort of odd to think about, but I was watching a documentary recently about him and some of the things that just went through of getting him to the place that he was. And this is not, whether you like country music or you don't like country music, that's regardless. You have to show respect for what he was able to do. He burst on the scene, I think it was early 90s, 90, 91, somewhere around there, maybe even the year before that. And he really like transformed what country music was, or at least to the world. He became world famous by playing just a certain, type of music and really elevated all of country music as country was able to get probably more fans and make more money during this time period of Garth Brooks sort of establishing who he was going to be or the type of music he was going to put out there. That really hadn't been seen before then. It's not as if he created country music, but he definitely changed it. And in this documentary, it was talking about how, he grew up in Oklahoma and he was playing in high school and college, and then he finally decided, I'm going to go to Nashville. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And he gets there and he's talking to someone, a record producer or someone, and basically said, he'll offer him, I think it was $750 a month to play some gigs. And Garth said, well, I make that much money, every weekend in Oklahoma. And so the guy basically said, well, you need to go back home to Oklahoma. He was very discouraged by that. He went back to Oklahoma. And it wasn't until he met another guy that was sort of in the business, and he went back to Nashville. And as they were going around to different labels, this documentary talked about how there were 7 record labels that passed on him. And you think about that. Think about the regret probably a lot of those record labels have. They passed on someone who sells 100 million plus copies in his career. Millions upon millions they lost out on. But why did they do that? Well, it's because they be honest with you, they didn't know what they had right in front of them. They didn't realize who it was. In fact, the interesting story is he was playing and he was trying in Nashville, trying to get his name out there, trying to find somebody to sign him to a record label, and he was at like an open mic night. And he was supposed to go on, I think it was 7th or 8th, somewhere around there. And he was there early. And the guy that was supposed to go on second didn't show up. And so the place, basically was scrounging around and asked Garth, well, will you go on in second, in the lineup since he's not here? And of course, Garth said yes. And what was interesting about is there was a record label, Capitol record label producer was in the audience, and he was there to hear the guy that was supposed to go on second. And since he didn't show up, he didn't know that, and he heard Garth Brooks. And after hearing him live, he said, come on back in, to the office Monday. We need to talk. I think we missed something. And the rest is history. But I bring up that story because I wonder, as the church, as we start to, get things going back here, hopefully really soon, we start gathering together, how many people are not going to be there? How many people are not only not going to be there, but how many people are going to miss out on because we don't realize what's around us? We don't realize, first of all, how valuable the church is, how valuable our church at Sycamore, but really this applies to everybody. I feel like we're going to have a golden opportunity, but also we're going to have to be very focused when everything gets back and we're coming back to normal worship services and Bible classes of who is not there that once was. Like I said, I don't think that's just a Sycamore thing. I think that's a church in general. It's so easy to get in a habit of not attending, or it's so easy to miss something for so long and just never get back into it. And it's going to be those people that are on the fringe already, that maybe are not well connected. And they're going to say, well, what's the need? What's the point? And I guess what I'm saying tonight for us to think about is, how are we going to handle that as a church? We're going to have this time frame where we really have to focus not just on our own well-being, but also for those that we don't see around us. There was another quote that I heard. I was listening to, I don't know if it's a podcast or something, that was talking about Mississippi and things that are going on in Mississippi. And of course, I grew up there, spent the first 30 years of my life there, and we're called the hospitality state. And there's obviously there's some mixed reviews about Mississippi, some things that are said of those that don't live there, don't know much about it, some stereotypes, and probably some of them are true. But it's the idea that, we're known as the hospitality state. But what they said in this podcast was, it's some of the most loving and well-meaning and, friendly people. You just have to come and you have to spend a little time there before you realize it. And I think that's exactly true. It's one of the friendliest places. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody gets along despite what the outside stereotypes sometimes paint certain states. But I wonder how much of that is something that can be even said for the church, or even for us at Sycamore, how, we are a very friendly congregation, loving congregation. You just have to kind of be there for a little while. You have to be there for a few weeks to realize that. And I see that sometimes even in the SOC campus ministry of how great and beneficial it is, but you have to give time to get to know the people. And I would say right now, when we start going back, we may not have a lot of time. We may not have a lot of time to sort of be slow and deliver, and patient and saying, well, people will eventually come back. Or, someone will come in and we just need to allow them to get comfortable with us for a few weeks, for a few months, and they'll see that we're friendly and we're nice and we're loving. Say instead, maybe our approach should be very adamant about, number one, looking around and seeing who is not there and reaching out to them. And we can even be doing that right now to at least see why people aren't there. As circumstances that we're under right now, not everyone needs to be there. But also, as we may have new people visiting us. We're going to have tech students here pretty soon visiting. But I'm talking about even people from our community, if they're visiting our church. Instead of just saying, yeah, we're friendly, we're nice, we're very hospitable, what are we doing to show that? And what are we doing to really reach out and to share that message with others? Think about the verse here, 1 Peter 4, as he's ending up that letter that he writes. He says, for this is why the gospel was preached, even to those who are dead, that though judged in the flesh the way people are, they might live in the Spirit the way God does. The end of all things is at hand. Therefore be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. That's an interesting way to write that, is you, first of all, me and you, be very self-controlled. The things we do, be very sober for the sake of our prayers. As if, if we're not those things, then our prayers mean nothing. God will not answer them. But also in verse 8, he says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly. Again, that word earnestly there is earnestly is the idea, it really means a prayer to God. So even as we love others, do it as if you're praying for people. So as Brother Dale would tell us all the time, to mention people in our prayer by name, instead of just a very general sense. Especially if you know people that are hurting and troubled, people that are on our prayer list every week. Let's pray for them by name. And also it says, since love covers a multitude of sins, show hospitality to one another without grumbling. The word hospitality is really the idea used, show hospitality towards strangers. But even in the church, sometimes we can see each other as a little bit of strangers. We don't know each other very well in a larger congregation, in a larger setting. Show hospitality without grumbling. Like what I'm asking you to do is reach out to people and ask them, are they looking forward to being back with us? When we see new people, reaching out to them, getting them plugged in and involved in all the things that we're going to be able to do in this community to share the message of Jesus. And do that with love and not grumbling. He says that each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever speaks is one who speaks the oracles of God, and whoever serves as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. That's how he finishes that letter out. So I just say tonight, think about those that we don't see yet, those that you haven't seen in a while, those that you may feel already need some encouragement. Let's be especially mindful over these next few weeks and these next few months as we get things going again. And not forget about all of our brothers and sisters and reach out to them. God bless, and hope you have a good rest of the week.